This is Radio Chatskill. I'm Tim Bruno. Empty garden beds can look a little sad during the fall and winter months, but they don't have to. Rob McCubbin of Plant Native New York is here to tell us how, with a little effort, some simple equipment, some right plantings now, gardens can continue to flourish even through the darkest days of the year. Hello. Welcome back, Rob.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so fall is probably a really good time and an easy time to actually do some gardening to make things better for not only winter, but then later in the spring.
Yeah, absolutely. It is actually my favorite time of year to garden. As a gardener, it's a little cooler. It's a beautiful outside, as we've seen the last couple days. And so it's a great opportunity to make some headway and get ready for the spring.
And this is a 3-day weekend, so there's some time, even though it might be a little rainy tomorrow. There are some tips you have for some ecological gardening this fall. As folks may remember, you were here last month. You specialize in native plants, and we talked about that. So what are some of the tips that we can talk to folks about for fall gardening?
Yeah, the first one is still plant native plants, right? That is the most important ecological gardening tip for the fall or any time of year. And in the fall, it's really great for young plants to get planted right about this time of year. What's happening for the plant is they are still developing their roots while not worrying so much about their stems and leaves and flowers. So they're putting a lot of energy into those roots. The soil is still warm from the summer. The cool autumn days stress the plant out less, and there's more frequent rain. So it's really an ideal time to plant plants. You can also plant and should plant your native seeds around this time of year. So most native seeds need something called cold stratification, and that is a cold, wet period, what Mother Nature lovingly calls winter. And so you put those seeds out before the winter, and then over winter, they go through a process where when the warm weather breaks, they break their dormancy and then sprout.
I think I might rename it cold stratification just to make it seem a little better, like not as down as winter sometimes sounds. What are some of the native plants that are good for this time of year?
Yeah, so I mean, right now really is the era of the aster, right? If you look around, there are asters blooming everywhere. We have dozens and dozens of types of asters, big purple asters like New England asters to smaller white calico type of asters. And so really dozens of asters. They bloom very late in the season, so late September into October. Excellent for pollinators getting ready to either migrate down south or to overwinter. And so beautiful. Definitely put those in your yard for fall. The other obvious one is goldenrod. It's sort of passed now a little bit. Really, September is when it's prime, but goldenrod is another beautiful flower for the fall. It's native, highly beneficial for pollinators, and it does not cause any allergies.
Very, very good to know for a lot of folks. Okay, so another tip you have for fall ecological gardening is, again, remember the pollinators, and plant native plants, but also minding soil health.
Yeah, so for pollinators, a couple things you want to do. The first one, which is, for the last decade or so, this has been a mantra, leave the leaves. So as the leaves start to fall out of our trees here in the next, couple days and weeks, we want to be really mindful that a lot of our pollinators overwinter at various stages of their life cycle in that leaf litter overwinter. And so we want to just leave it when we can. And if we can't leave it somewhere, if it's on your mowed grass or on a driveway or sidewalk, you want to try to move it as least invasively as possible, and particularly no leaf blowers. Leaf blowers are really problematic for pollinators and will, kill them essentially.
Yeah, right.
So
might as well just say it. That's what it will do. And again, leaving the leaves. Again, we think of fall. I think there's a romanticized vision of like the raking of the leaves, but really, leave them there. That is, they've fallen. They're going to do their job if you just leave them there.
Yeah, they're going to add to the soil nutrient as they decompose, and they will provide habitat for those pollinators over the winter. The other thing you can do is if you do have a native garden, a pollinator garden, as it sort of passes, you don't want to sort of cut it all down. Pollinators also overwinter in the hollow stems of things like goldenrod or milkweed, things of that nature. And so while it might look a little unsightly or doesn't look as sort of clean and crisp as you would like, it's actually really beneficial for the pollinators. So you should leave those up until, early spring.
If the leaves are sort of piling up in a particular area, is it best to sort of spread them out a little bit?
You can leave them as they are. If they are on your lawn that you keep mowed, the leaves will kill the grass over the winter. So those leaves you might want to pick up and move to an area of your property where you can sort of let them be. But otherwise, just leave them as they fall.
You mentioned the milkweed. I just realized I was walking around the yard. There's milkweed there. Is there anything I should do to the milkweed to help encourage it to come back and help the pollinators? I'm wondering, or just let it go, let Mother Nature do its thing.
Yeah, I mean, mostly just let Mother Nature do its thing. A lot of the seed pods are about to burst for the milkweed, so they'll start to seed. And I think any areas on your lawn and your property that you're willing to sort of let Mother Nature take her course, so, encourage the milkweed to grow there or just continue to let it thrive.
And some other fall tips that you've got. What else can we tell folks?
Yeah, the other good one is, thinking about the soil. So if you do have garden beds or a pollinator garden, it's a great time of year to add a little bit of compost. It'll help provide some more nutrients and microbial activity and provide a little additional insulation for plants in the winter, and then feed them as they wake up in the spring. And if you are thinking about adding a pollinator garden next year, there's a technique you can do called lasagna mulching. It's a no-till method to create a new bed, so you are preserving the soil health while also suppressing whatever was growing there, a piece of grass, yard, invasive species you don't want.
Why is it called lasagna mulching, and
what
does it look like? What does it look like? Describe it.
Essentially building a lasagna. So what you start with is newspaper. Well, you mow your yard really low. So you try to get the closest cut you can on your grass. You then put some newspaper down. You get that really wet. Cover that with cardboard. You get that really wet. And then you put some compost and some mulch on top. And you let it sit all winter just like that. It'll start to decompose and break down. And then in the spring, it's very easy to plant into.
If you're just joining us, we're talking to Rob McCubbin of Plant Native New York, whose mission is to create a greener and more biodiverse New York and region by promoting native plants and ecological gardening practices. Is there anything to do? We have a pond on our area, our land, I guess, our land. It's 5 acres. And I don't know if I would call it a pond as much as a gathering of water. Is there anything around the water in your land that you should look to do for fall, winter? Yeah,
there's a bunch of plants. Actually, a really great fall bloomer is something called a turtlehead. It's a naturally occurring flower we have here in the Catskills region. It grows along the edges of ponds and edges of river, and it blooms very late September, early October. So it's again a great plant. It's also very beautiful and interesting. The bumblebees literally have to force their way into the flower to get the pollen and nectar, and then sort of pop out of it when they're done. So it's a great plant to have. But there's a bunch of other Joe Pye weeds, excellent, boneset. These are all sort of late summer bloomers that are great around the edges of water. And you can also look for things like elderberry, which are, very popular fruiting native plants that we have in the area.
And then in terms of pruning, is there some do's and don'ts in terms of things to prune at this time or not? Or does it
depends a little bit specifically on the plant. I would say generally it's a little better to prune in the early spring before things get going. But, if something has broken in a way, naturally, or there's something you're trying to clean up or reshape for the year ahead, now is certainly a decent time to do it.
And Plant Native New York, you have a workshop this weekend. What can folks expect at the workshop?
Yeah, so I'll be at Riverbend Gardens on Route 97 tomorrow. It will be covering a lot of these same topics. We are also actually going to make seed bombs, which are a great activity to do with kids to get some native plants in the ground for the year ahead. And so it'll be fun. There will be some beverages available. So, we'll have some wine, we'll make some seed bombs and learn a little bit more about native plants.
And the seed bombs, again, can you remind folks what those are?
Yeah, so seed bombs are a technique that you can do to, you use some clay and some compost and you add seeds to them. They dry out and then you can literally throw them places or plant them places. And it helps keep the seeds protected from the birds over the winter. So the birds aren't getting at those seeds before they have a chance to sprout.
I appreciate you making gardening fun. Seed bombs, lasagna mulching.
Yeah, exactly.
Where can folks get more information about Plant Native New York?
They can find us on Instagram at Plant Native New York or our website, plantnativenewyork.com.
All right, Rob McCubbin from Plant Native New York. Thanks so much for joining us.